lot of them. I'm going to speak for me, myself, and for the members. Stop asking me about the loan lines. Ask me if somebody's going to eat today and what we can do to help them, feed them and their children. Ask me about if that person can get. I got people getting evicted. Got to go to court because they couldn't afford to pay the rent because they got backed up. Then they got to, we got these small interest loans. You're still trying to pay back the loan from the last shutdown. So now they want to offer you some other type of loans, long-term loans. So you'll be paying that for the rest of your life based on this agency here. So guys, just think about what we're doing and why we're doing it and have some love for the employees that's putting our lives on the line every day. When we go to work, we're not sure whether or not we're going to go home at the end of the day. But you know what? We don't think about that. We think about the safety of the passengers. To make sure they feel comfortable, make sure they're safe, make sure there's no problem, nothing can get on that plane that can hurt anyone. That's what we specialize in. The safety of the flying public and to protect their property. I thank you guys for wanting to interview us to find what's going on. But the only way you're going to know what's really going on unless you live that life. And none of you on the phone and the news media have lived that life where you had to come to work every day and try to determine when I'm going to pay my rent. Can I pay at the end of this month? Because it's coming. The bills are coming. 6, 7 more days, the bills are coming. You tell somebody, can you just hold? TSA gave us these letters to give to our landlord. The landlord don't want to see that because once you get paid and you move out and don't pay him, then he got to search you down and take you to court to get his money. You're already in debt. How then TSA, they want to discipline you for coming late. Not thank you for coming in. They discipline people for coming in late. Oh, can you explain to me why you was here late? I haven't got paid. They want you to justify why you can't come to work before they can approve you to even be off. So, like I said, let's have a conscience and think about what we're really doing and what we really want to speak out to the public about what TSA is going through right now, because people are not quitting the job because they want to quit the job. They love this job. They quitting because they have no choice. They're not coming to work because they have no choice. They don't have the finance to come to work. So they give us a couple of minutes. I'm going to try to end my conversation because I'll be talking for the whole conversation here. You'll be only interviewing me. So like I said, my name is Heidi Thomas. I was elected as a Council 100 president to speak in behalf of the entire 400-something plus airports under the leadership of President Kelley. He is the president of this local here. He speaks for all 700-something thousand members. And like I said, I thank for his leadership and his guidance on everything we do to protect the people in TSA. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Hydrick. All right, next we'll hear from Mac Johnson, who is the Executive Vice President of AFGE TSA Council and also the President of Local 449, which covers airports in Virginia, Maryland, West Virginia, and North Carolina. Mac.
Good morning to the members of the press and my colleagues as well. Thank you guys for joining this press conference this afternoon. As Britton stated, the Executive Vice President for the TSA Council 100 and my local jurisdiction covers 4 states, North Carolina, West Virginia, Virginia, and Maryland. I'm also a veteran of the United States Army. I just want to give you a little background briefly. I was a full-time student, college student, when the horrible events of 9/11 happened. I was 9 semester hours short of graduating. Since 2012, and what I'm hearing from our members in the 4 states that I directly in our jurisdiction is it's not that these employees and their families are hungry; they're beginning to starve, literally starve, because they do not have the funds to provide the financial means to provide foods for their families, and that is absolutely absurd. No federal employee in the United States of America should be starving or having any difficulty paying the rent, the mortgage, auto insurance, life insurance, etc. So like everyone else, we not only strongly encourage, we demand that the Congress and this administration sit down like adults and resolve this matter. so these employees won't be place themselves between a rock and a hard place. And again, one last thing that I find very disturbing, or two things actually. The first being, there's some employees around this country who are selling plasma so that they can buy food to feed their families. Selling plasma. Additionally, there are management officials throughout this country. To add insult to injury, they're charging folks with absent without leave, which is AWOL, so that when this shutdown does end someday, they will not be paid for those time that they're not reporting to work due to no fault of their own. It's due directly to the fault of the Congress of the United States of America, as well as this current administration. Thank you, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Mac. Next up, we'll hear from Johnny Jones, the Secretary Treasurer of AFGE TSA Council 100 and the President of Local 1040, which is represents airports in Texas. Johnny, go ahead.
Say thank you for everybody coming. We have about 100 folks, and it's really awesome you guys want to take our information. But the folks that we represent across the 435 airports to 45,000 BUEs across the United States of bargaining employees of TSA, they have going on into their third pay period now over this coming weekend. Starting on Friday, will miss their third paycheck. And they are these are desperate times for the employees. A lot of people aren't able to come to work, not because they're sick or there any kind of issue of that nature, is because they no longer have funds. Okay. A lot of employees, also as a little factoid, about 50% of this year, the government has been in a shutdown status. Okay. So employees for the last 5 months, 50% of that time, they have spent in a status of shutdown, which means they don't know when they're going to get paid. And one of the issues that we've discovered during these shutdowns is that after talking to employees, the late fees these guys are paying on apartments and their car loans or whatever it is, every day it's $75 at the apartment complex that don't pay for. It's every day that you have a charge that hits your account and you don't have any money. It's another $30 the bank you're going to owe the bank. And if the bank will work with you. Not only do we need to be fully funded, but the TSOs are going to need excessive, and this probably across the whole thing, there needs to be an excessive compensation plan to give these guys money, because I know that my colleagues have already said that these guys have borrowed money. Yeah, they borrowed money. They're over their heads and heels in debt. Most of the employees live paycheck to paycheck, so they've missed these paychecks for the last month and a half, and then before it was a month and a half again. So this is unsustainable. And even after the shutdown was over, I've heard a lot of people say, "Well, they're going to get back paid." The back pay doesn't cover the fact that you just lost and you have to pay all these fees. Okay, that's a tremendous issue, and I just want to say thank you for being on. I'm going to pass it back to you, Brittany.
Thank you, Johnny. Next up, we'll hear from Carlos Rodriguez, who is the TSA Council Region 1 Vice President, covering airports in New York, New Jersey, Delaware, Maine, Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Vermont. So, Carlos, you can go ahead.
Thank you, everybody. My name is Carlos Rodriguez. I serve as Secretary Treasurer of Local 2222, New York, New Jersey, and Delaware. Also as Council 100 Regional Vice President. I'm a second-generation Dominican. I'm a witness to 9/11 and a City University of New York graduate. I love my city. I love my country. But most importantly, I love the great men and women of TSA who I serve with every day, fulfilling our oath to protect people and freedom of movement and commerce. So it's really difficult to do that when we don't know who's protecting us. At this point, at this stage, my coworkers and I have been working for over months and weeks without getting paid. This is the second time in this year only, and we haven't even recuperated from the previous shutdown. This is putting the livelihoods of our family, the people in our communities at stake, and the appreciation and gratitude we have felt from the traveling public. With our constituents that voted for the people in positions of power who are making the decisions for us and who I feel are using us as a pawn in their political game, those people are not happy with that. I see it because I see their gratitude. I see them every time they pass through a checkpoint, they tell us thank you and everything, how the community has come together to help us out. But it shouldn't be the job of the community to figure out how do we make ends meet with our families. We work for a job, we should get paid. A part of the American dream that I was sold was that working for the government was honorable and stable. But this is not honorable or stable at this moment. And more importantly, the way that I feel is that at this point, we're being threatened by all sides. The political atmosphere and the international situations. I don't want to go into fear mongering, but the depths of what's happening here is very big. And I think that everything should be done so we could focus on doing our job and continue to be the only government agency that has 100% satisfaction and success rate. We were created to stop a 9/11 from happening, and no planes have fallen out of the U.S. skies as long as we have been put in place. Thank you all.
Thank you, Carlos. Next up, we'll hear from John Hubert, who is the Region 2 Vice President covering airports in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, Mississippi, Puerto Rico, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. So, John, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and speak. John Hubert, you there?
I think he just fell off, actually.
Okay. I'm going to go next to Duncan McGuire.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, you're there?
Oh, he's-
Perfect. Okay.
Mayor. Yeah. Hello, good afternoon, all. I just want to introduce myself. I'm AFGE Local 55 President. I'm currently the TSA Region 2 Vice President over regions from South Carolina all the way down to Virgin Islands, where I'm originally from. Been getting into officers in airports is the TSA feels that they've been left behind, is engaged in this war of a back.
Okay, I don't see him and I don't hear him anymore. So next we're going to go to Duncan McGuire, Region 5 Vice President, covering airports in Alaska, Colorado, Idaho, Missouri, Oregon, Utah, Washington, and Wyoming.
Not Missouri, though. I think I was an error. Folks are asking why employees are still working for TSA when they aren't getting paid. Aside from TSA employees swore an oath to this country, a lot of these members have worked here for over 20 years, not just members, employees, and they're nearing retirement in the next 5 to 10 years. They finally started making decent money after AFGE secured a pay raise in 2022. So for them to leave TSA and start new somewhere else doesn't make sense at all, because then you lose all that time. It's also one of the biggest threats with privatization. All those years of federal service are thrown out the window. And then there's no reason to even stick around. So it'll be an entirely new workforce with little to no experience taking over if more and more airports start privatizing. Emotional health issues have also been huge. Families are struggling to pay rent. Mortgages forbearance is going into forbearance soon for a lot of families. Not just families, single people. IRS is going to be wanting their money soon. Taxes are due on the 15th of next month. So if you owe taxes and you can't pay them, are they going to garnish our back pay, when we finally do get it? Pride's thrown out the windows as our government forces working people to rely on food drives, handouts, and public support, all while feeling not just abandoned by our own government, but straight up betrayed by both political parties. As an Army infantry veteran, I've seen the government fuck over our vets time and time again. Now they're repeatedly doing it to multiple federal employees, especially TSA, FEMA, and Coast Guard. The agency itself has created new policies to manipulate, threaten, and discipline employees since all these shutdowns have started. And they change every shutdown to make it harder and harder for people to come to work if they're not getting paid without getting disciplined for it. And lastly, I just want to mention that I've been asked personally about FGE life insurance policies regarding suicide. So just let that settle in for a moment, that some people are actually considering suicide as the only option to get their loved ones money when they can't bring in anymore. So thank you.
Ooh, that was chilling. Thank you, Duncan. Next up, we're going to hear from LaShonda Palmer, who is the president of Local 333, covering Philadelphia and Wilmington, Delaware airports. LaShonda.
Hello, everyone. As she said, my name is LaShonda Palmer, and I am the local president of AFGE Local 333. And I do represent all the wonderful officers here in Philadelphia International Airport and Wilmington Airport. As you know, many of us are still showing up to do our jobs without a paycheck. That is the reality of this shutdown. The employees of this agency have chose between gas to come to work, food for their families. Some cannot even afford co-pays for their doctor visits or pick up medication. We have single parents, grandparents, caregivers, and families who are under real financial strain. Yet, they are still expected to report and perform at full capacity. Morale is low, stress is high, the uncertainty is taking a toll, not just financially, but mentally and emotionally. We are asking for one simple thing. Respect our workforce, show some compassion, and resolve this shutdown so the people who keep this country running are no longer forced to carry this burden without pay. And to actually close out, I'm asking for everyone to take some responsibility about this, putting us in this unfortunate position. Do the right thing by us and make us whole when this shutdown is over. Thank you.
Thank you, LaShonda. Next up, we'll hear from Aaron Barker, who is the president of AFGE Local 554, which covers airports in Georgia. Aaron, go ahead and unmute yourself. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining the call today. You've heard from various of our colleagues already about what officers are experiencing. And one thing that I want to say about the situation with ICE coming into the airport, and I can speak for Atlanta specifically. Their monitoring lines and or whatever. Atlanta Airport already has staff that does that. They're not TSA employees. The city of Atlanta has staff that monitors and directs traffic already in Atlanta. Officers across the nation, and I don't know what's happening at other airports, but for them to have them come in knowing that they're collecting a per diem check and hotels to come to these airports while officers are not receiving a paycheck is also, I feel like it's waste. It's a waste of money that could have been coming into officers' bank accounts. So I wanted to speak on that and make sure that you all understand that some airports already have the things in place that is being claimed that, ICE is doing in the airports. Second thing is, every airport and every situation is different. I've heard some talks today about how there are no wait times in Savannah, so to speak, or the smaller airports. Well, a lot of the smaller airports, especially when you talk about regional airports, they already only work part-time, so they already have supplemental income. So you wouldn't have the same struggle as if you lived in a bigger city where the cost of living is much more expensive. The resources and things are a lot different. There's less dollars coming out of your pocket because you may live in not a metropolitan area, but that doesn't take away from the fact that those officers are still going without pay and experiencing the same strain that those are at large airports. So just because you don't see a wait time at one particular airport does not mean that those officers are not struggling. So I wanted to make sure that I brought that to the attention of the media. And again, as all of my colleagues are saying, we are not asking at this point, we're demanding that Congress gets it together and stop playing around with the hardworking lives of TSA officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. We have two more speakers and then we'll get to questions. Next up, we'll hear from Christine Vitale, who is the Executive Vice President of AFGE Local 777, which covers airports in Illinois and Wisconsin. Go ahead.
Hi, as Brittany stated, my name is Christine Vitale. I'm the Executive Vice President of AFGE Local 777, which covers the state of Illinois and Wisconsin. I want to touch on a little bit, as Aaron stated, about the ICE taking over our checkpoints and baggage areas. I'm stationed out of O'Hare Airport, and I know for a fact that we had the ICE agents at the exit doing DO, and they were actually in the baggage areas yesterday. Our officers are afraid of losing their job, not only not receiving a paycheck, losing their job. as ICE gets brought in. Today, it was stated that the National Guard might, coming in and helping out ICE agents at the checkpoints and baggage zones. I just have a message for Washington. Pay us. Stop holding us hostage. Give us our money. You got your money, give us ours. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Christine. And last but not least, we'll hear from Sean Root, who is the Executive Secretary of AFGE Local 1260, which covers airports in California, Nevada, and Arizona. Go ahead, Sean. You're on mute, though. It's on mute.
Sorry. Thanks, Brittany. We have mortgages, car loans, personal loans. None of these are paused because of a shutdown. The bills continue to come. Our members are still being told, go find loans, go borrow money. It doesn't happen. A lot of people exhausted those funds and those opportunities during the last shutdown. These banks, everybody, they give us a little cushion to absorb the financial hit, and now here we are again. While we're thankful for the support that we're getting from the community, there's still, at the end of the day, the donations, they're great, they're coming in. But even the places that are helped donate, they're drying up. They helped us out a ton during the last shutdown. And it's not the community's responsibility to make sure that people can get to work for their jobs. We have another round, as we discussed earlier, of rent and mortgages coming up. And, these landlords, they don't want to hear, we'll pay you later, or give us a note that's from the government saying that, please let these guys pay it when they can. They have businesses to run too. And it's very unfortunate all our people are put in these positions. We have people receiving eviction notices that are still coming into work, out of fear of losing their jobs. After we got that pay raise, in 2022 that, Duncan brought up, a lot of people turn their jobs into careers, and now they're being taunted. It seems daily about privatization. These guys aren't coming into work, but they're being forced into a position where they have to choose, go into work or stay home and find another means to provide for your family. I don't think that's fair at all. I don't think anybody would think it's fair that they're using it against them to just kind of taunt them and push them into privatization that nobody wants and doesn't make sense. There's only so much that these people can take until there's a breaking point. And I think we're at that breaking point. Forcing everybody into that impossible situation, I don't wish it upon anybody. Thank you, Brittany.
Alrighty, so now we're going to move into our question and answer portion. If you have a question, just put your name and your outlet in the chat, and somebody from my team will get me your name, and I will call on you, and you will be allowed to speak. So our first question, I believe, is from, and sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, Caron Demerjian from New York Times. She's still on.
Hi, yes, I'm here. Karen Demerjian, yeah. That was very quick. I was just wondering, some people have alluded to parts of this, but I was just wondering if anybody can explain, like we've seen that certain airports seem to have the longest lines, and presumably that corresponds to call-outs with TSA. I was wondering if there's just any sort of sense of why we've seen places like Houston, Atlanta, versus other urban areas, other parts of the country, have more pressure on these TSA workers. Is it something about the traffic in the airport, or is it something about just like the day-to-day particulars of keeping your life together in those areas that show that we've seen the highest delays and lines really in those areas week after week?
Is there anyone on our panel who wants to take that question?
I can speak to it, Brittany. This is Aaron.
Okay, go ahead, Aaron.
What I would say is the cost of living in a lot of areas are different. Daycare fees, the cost of gas and things are different when you are in different parts of the country. So that will be the major factor and why you would see more officers calling out in different areas. And I can also say, a lot of officers don't, if you live in a metro or work in a metropolitan area such as Atlanta, I can use it for an example. Most officers cannot afford to live in Atlanta. So they're living an hour, up to an hour, sometimes an hour and a half away to work, to commute to work. So that is probably why you may see a big difference in larger airports because most of the officers can't afford to live in those large metropolitan cities based off of the salaries that they have.
Thank you. And Duncan, I see you have your hand up. Did you want to add to that?
Yeah, another thing is, so there was all federal agencies are supposed to follow OPM guidance regarding intermittent furloughs, which means taking your day off instead of using your own time during a shutdown. So there's this new policy that TSA has come up with, implementing more restrictions on getting to use that time instead of your own time. And not every airport is applying that policy the same. For example, I know some airports in my region who are applying it in the most extreme measure, so that across the board, everybody has to follow the same strictest part of the policy in order to get time off during this, whereas some other airports follow the minimum portion of that policy. So.
Sorry, and does that line up with places like Houston and other places where we've seen there being more backups?
Yeah, I can speak to that. The issue in Houston is that the metropolitan area of Houston is to go from one side when the city starts to the other side when the city ends is easily 80 to 100 miles. It's pretty spread out from north, south, east to west. And the economical impacts of fuel cost and other daily costs that a lot of the employees may not be as insulated to be able to handle the effect. Plus, they may not, the attitudes, the employees, just tired of going to work without being able to be paid, and they're deciding I'm not going to incur all these late fees, and that's exactly what's happening.
Thank you. Next, we're going to go to Jacob Garden Swartz from Scripps News.
Hey there, thanks so much for doing this. This question is primarily for President Kelley, I think, but then if any of the local TSA officials want to speak to it as well, certainly would value their input. Since this all began, we've heard increasing calls from some lawmakers as well as others in the business community and elsewhere that suggest that this is an argument in favor of privatizing TSA and airport security. I'm just wondering if you can speak to that and, if you see that as an adequate response to the funding challenges, not just this time, but, the repeated shutdowns we've now seen in recent years.
Thank you for the question. I think that the end game, if they can show or make people believe that the TSA is in mission failure, then it certainly lend to that idea. And so we're trying to put it out there up front so that people become aware that this is a game. This is not a mission failure. Not on the part of TSA employees. This is a mission failure on behalf of the administration. And what we need to do is fund TSA, fund DHS, so that they can perform the duties that they need to perform. And then we don't have an issue about any discussion about privatization.
Would any of the folks who work in TSA want to weigh in on sort of what you've heard and your reaction to those calls?
I can tell you, this is Johnny. I left a corporate sector job making way more money than I ever did as TSA officer to serve my country. And because of what happened on 9/11, I would, if they were to try to privatize TSA, first of all, the American people would not be as safe, okay? The system and network would not be as safe. And I would not personally want to fly if I knew the whole entire system was privatized, because it's just not safe for the American people. Whenever you put profit before people and security, because that's all privatization is, bottom line is profit, okay? P is for profit, not for people. Let's not get that twisted, okay? So it's very important that the people understand what privatization is. It has nothing to do with your security or your safety. It has everything to do with somebody making a profit. And I thank you.
President Kelley, I'd like to say something about the privatization. My name is Hydra Thomas. Like I said, I'm the TSA Councilwoman President. I'm also the local president of New York and New Jersey, the 27 plus airports, and oversee the 400 something. Privatization don't work. Before I retired from the first job, I worked in the private sector in the airport. The private sector is where the airline employees can bring in anything they want. You can't challenge them in the private sector. Security, TSA came in after 9/11 and made it more secure and more safe for passengers to fly, knowing there's nothing being bypassed through TSA to be put onto a plane without being searched. I witnessed how they was. They tell you, you challenge them. And in the private sector, I had a airline manager. Wanted to just walk his son in through the stereo area, TSA. He got upset because I challenged him. He said, do you know who I am? I said, I'm well aware who you are. You're the airline manager. Okay, what difference does that make whether or not you can walk somebody through the gate with no gate pass, no ticket? No, that's my son. I said, okay, what they have to do with me, doing my job. So then he reached out to a manager, and I told the manager, listen to me, I have an issue with that. I've been in security all my life. I was in security in the military, overseas countries. I was security in the private sector, in the housing complex. I was security with TSA for 20 plus years, so I have a lot of experience in safety. And by trying to privatize where they can have control over who can bring what in without being screened, that's going to be the biggest mistake of this country. That's why we had the 9/11. Because they wasn't really screening the passengers. They wasn't telling them to empty their pockets. And they took down those planes with box cutters. Not a gun or anything out bomb, with box cutters, guys. And do we really want that to ever happen again when somebody can just walk in or something? I hope none of y'all guys want that to ever happen again. I know as a media, you fly around a lot too. So the thing about the privatization is not going to work for this country here. I'm not trying to say people that want to be in privatization shouldn't have a job, but not when it comes to life and property. They should be involved in that unless they're properly trained to a government agency like we've been trained. We were highly trained to do our jobs. Not just say, okay, we're going to put this private company in, let them read a flashcard and put them to work. How you going to let somebody do a 4-hour training and now say they're qualified to search a passenger? No, you're not qualified. Think about all the effort that the government put in to train us to do this job here. And now you're going to say, let's privatize it by just bringing somebody who's going to train for a day. Give them a quick training. They're going to say, okay, we're sorry it didn't work. Who's going to take the blame now? So let's think about the privatization. Like I said, I'm not trying to say somebody shouldn't have a job, but they should be properly trained. They're not going to be properly trained. I know from experience. Thank you, President Kelley.
All righty. Next question from Marketplace. We're going to go Nancy Marshall Ginzer.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. Just a little bit more about ICE. Have any of you had interactions with ICE agents at airports when you're on the job for TSA, and how have they gone? And I'd like to hear more about your fears about being replaced by ICE agents.
This is Hydrick again, TSA Council 100. ICE agents, like in JFK, my home base is JFK. We got like 6 different terminals, multiple checkpoints in each terminal. And you go right now, and ICE is walking around in the front of the terminal in the checkpoint. And our pastor walks says, excuse me, can you tell me how to get to Terminal 4? You're in Terminal 8 right now. They have no clue how to give you the right direction to get there. Next thing you know, you wind up in the parking lot area, the same place you left from, because he was given the wrong direction. Now you missed the plane. Who takes the blame? Now you get there's a long line where you wasn't expecting the line to be that long, but you was given the wrong information. And who's going to take the blame? So TSA, long lines. We're very proficient in what we do when we search people. The line and the wait time, they tell you to be at least 2 hours in advance. Every airport I have seen have a wait time. If you don't have a wait time, you really need to check on that, because the only person who don't have a wait, if you're the first person in that line, your wait time can be a minute. You're the last person on that line, it can be 2 hours. Because we're very proficient. We want to be very proficient at what we do and make sure you get there safe. So when they start talking about the privatization, like President Johnny said, it's all about profit, not about the people. How much money can we make off the privatization? So just take in consideration what you're going to ask for and what you get. Thank you again.
Is there anyone else on the panel who has had any experience with the ICE officers at your airports that can speak to her question? All right.
I'd say that some of the employees, we didn't have ICE at our airport, but the employees that actually work at the airport were concerned about coming to work because they're afraid their immigration status would cause them to be detained or removed from their airport employees. So a couple of the restaurants did not actually open at the airport because they had no workers show up.
All right. Thank you. Next from Bloomberg Law, we're going to go Angelica Franginio Diaz. Angelica, are you there? Okay, she might not be here. Okay, so next we're going to go to Next Star Media Group, Margaret Chadbourne. Margaret, are you there? Okay, next we're going to go to Meryl Cornfield from Washington Post. Meryl? Meryl, are you there?
Hello.
Okay. Oh, Meryl. Okay, we can hear you.
Oh, great. Thank you. Really appreciate this. So the admin had posted this video today. I put it in the comments from the Rapid Response 47 account that shows the lines at the Atlanta airport have, gotten improved and wait times are down, and they attribute that to ICE. I'm wondering if you could talk about what's at play there, and why they the video shows that, and what you think is the factors there. And I figured Aaron Barker would be great for that question.
Aaron, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So what the traveling public needs to know, there are peak days and there are non-peak days. So Sunday, Monday, and Friday, Thursday, Friday are usually the peak days where you have the highest volume of passengers coming through. So if you see shorter lines on a Tuesday and Wednesday, that's expected. And also, it also depends on what a particular airport or city event they may have going on. Of course, we know Atlanta is a hub for Delta, but it's also an entertainment hub. So if there's not anything going on that particular weekend that would cause an influx in passengers, you would not see a longer line. I mean, we're coming off of the end of spring break, so the lines are not going to be as long for officers. For people traveling out of Atlanta, you probably have a lot of people coming in, but they're not traveling from Atlanta, which makes the wait time less. It has nothing to do with ICE presence being there. The ICE officers in Atlanta are not doing any screening functions. They are literally standing behind the officers while they're checking documents and screening passengers, or walking the queue line that cascades through the airport. It has nothing to do with the wait time.
All right, thank you. Next, we're going to go to Carlos Waters from CNBC.
Hey, my question was actually answered in an early response about ICE at the airports, so thank you.
You're welcome. Wonderful. Okay, next I'm going to go, to DC News Now. Rosen, your last name is Rosen? Sorry, Tosin Falculi. I'm sorry, I'm saying your name wrong. Fakil Tosin.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. My question is for Mac Johnson. I had a couple questions about the DMV airports. The first is, how many officers, TSA officers, have quit or have been calling out at DCA, Dulles, BWI? And I was just wondering, DCA and Dulles have seen fewer longer lines than BWI has. And I was wondering if you maybe knew why that was.
Actually, I see that Mac actually had to jump for another meeting off of the call right now. So I don't know if anybody else on the call could speak to why, to what's going on here in the DMV, if you're aware. No? Okay. We can set up a call between you and Mac so he can answer.
Can I ask one more question real quick?
Sure.
And finally, I was wondering, and anyone can take this, throughout this process, has there been any communication from the Hill with TSA through this process, trying to keep them informed as everything was moving through, or how often that communication was, if at all there was?
The communications that's been coming down, I can let Aaron speak on it after, has been, unfortunately, it's been kind of oddly partisan in regards to a lot of the communications is coming from TSA to the employees. Partisan in nature. If anybody else has anything else they want to pass along, but if you're referring to the shutdown itself, it's very interesting.
Yes, it's about the shutdown. Thank you.
This is Hydrick from Council 100. I have direct communication with labor management at TSA headquarters. Basically, when anything's going on, they'll reach out to me to reach out to the airport. During the last shutdown, we spoke about the 43-day shutdown, 53 days before they got paid. Then I got a call from labor management, TSA headquarters. They had me reach out to another airport. I think it was in the West Coast, where there's still over 50 to 100 employees that still didn't get paid. This was already in the late part of December or January from the last shutdown, which ended in November. See, in short, you can reach out to the local leader at the airport, tell them, sure, we're still working on it. We have some glitch in the system. I said, but you didn't pay the people for 50-something days. Now you're going to another month, making it on like 60-something days. So TSA, they only reach out to that something is affecting the federal safety directors might have an issue with the union, informing workers about the, like Duncan said, the OPM guidance. How the agency should be trying to help you when this furlough is activated on what you can call it and how you get called, not being marked AWOL. Now you're not only losing pay, but you're not going to get paid when the furlough is over. So basically, that's about it. Trying to make it work for the employees because they imagine not going to speak with it. We tried to set up meetings with them before the furlough happened. Still haven't been able to accomplish that because I don't think they really want to meet with us. But like I said, we do the best we can to try to coordinate conversation between TSA labor management and policies, things that violate the policies and the guidelines that they set forth, that they don't want to enforce, that their managers supposed to follow. Because if the OPM guidance said you can approve somebody for furlough based on their status or what their hardship is or why they can't come to work, you tell them to provide documents, and they provide it, and you still tell them, unfortunately, at this time, we can't approve the furlough status for you. So now the person not going to get paid. They can't come to work. So they got no choice but to stay home.
I see, Aaron, you want to add to this?
Yes, I can say for Georgia, both senators and Ossoff and Warnock have been communicating with me at least 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes every day, and sometimes multiple times a day. And also, the airport falls into Nakima Williams' district, so she's also been reaching out. So they have been calling. I've actually invited them, to come and speak directly to my membership here in Atlanta to explain what's going on. And I've been having very frank conversations with them about what's happening behind the scenes and letting them know that, officers are not happy with how things have been going and are really concerned. So I'm not going to say concerned, pissed off is what they are. So I have been in constant communication with those here in Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to go from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, Kelley Yamanuchi.
Yes, I was wondering if you can share with me about how, once the shutdown ends, how quickly could officers get their first paycheck? Would it still remain on the regular pay schedule? And how might that affect how quickly officers who have had to call out would be able to return to work?
I can answer that real simply in regards to the pay. During the last time it took 14 to 30 days for employees to be paid, regardless of the pay cycle.
Oh, I see. So what do you think that might mean in terms of how quickly the staffing might be able to return fully once a shutdown ends?
During the last time, it still took quite a few days.
Okay, thank you.
Based on previous history. But I don't want to, if you wanted something more direct from Atlanta, Aaron's on the call too.
Yeah, Aaron, if you have any thoughts on that?
Yes, it's about the same that Johnny explained. And until that paycheck hits that account, you can expect the same. I'm hoping that it gets past today and we can at least have some sort of funds drop into officers' account and to include mine this weekend. So fingers crossed on that. But yeah, it 14 to 30 days is about right.
For back pay, that is.
Yes.
Okay, so a first paycheck could potentially come this weekend or Friday, but back pay would take another 14 to 30 days, you think?
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely we had a situation where it ended last time exactly on the same date. It ended on a Tuesday. The people still didn't get that paycheck at that weekend. That's the reason why it took so long.
I see.
So they waited until the next pay cycle.
Okay.
So like because they closed the payroll system, the NRC, unless they get a special permission from the National Resolution Center to process a payment, and evidently they didn't do that last time.
I see. Okay. Thank you so much for the insights.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Fallon Roth from the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Hi, can everyone hear me okay?
We can.
Hi, this is a question for LaShonda, if she's still on. LaShonda, I'm just curious. I know
I
that
think she actually dropped off. I know she was on the call on her break. I don't believe she's on anymore.
Okay. Is that something you'd be able to help facilitate?
Yeah, just send me an email and we can set up a call with you and her.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, all right. From WJLA, Rebecca Turco.
Hi, yes. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes. So this is just a question for the group. I've reached out to DHS and they've mentioned that ICE is going to be bolstering TSA efforts to keep the skies safe, but they wouldn't elaborate beyond that. So I'm curious whether you all have been told exactly how ICE is going to be helping TSA.
We're still trying to figure out. My name is Hydrick. We're still trying to figure it out ourselves.
Oh, Hydrick, can you? Sorry, can you show us? Can we see your face?
Oh yeah, there you go. I just put it back on. Sorry about that. I was stuffing something in my mouth. I didn't want to make nobody angry because anyway. But like I said, I'm still trying to figure it out. I've been in the business of protecting lives all my life, and I'm still trying to figure out how you bring what type of agency I consider them as. They're like more like they're not like almost not even a law enforcement agency. I'm trying to figure out what type of agency ICE really is because they have no experience in dealing directly with the public. As y'all see what happened, it caused this whole incident to take place. ICE approaches different states, going around to shopping malls, picking people up. Even though you're a citizen, they're picking you up. So are they going to stop picking the passengers up when they come in because they think they identify them as a person that shouldn't be in this country? And when that happens, then they're going to realize they made a mistake. ICE is no way ICE is going to guarantee safety for the passengers. All ICE is doing is in the way of the passengers. They say, hey, how you doing? That's about it. They really don't want to even communicate with the passengers when they come into the building. So I like I said, we're still trying to figure out why they're there. There's no way ICE is going to help us make the passengers feel safe.
And if you're comfortable sharing, Hydrick, are you a current TSA officer? And if you're comfortable sharing, how have you been doing with everything going on?
I'm blessed because I understand why I'm here. I sacrifice because I have no small kids. So I try to give a word of advice to the young adults and how we come together in the terminals that I work. I've been employed at TSA for 23 years. This year will be 24 years in TSA. And I told them let's just stay focused on why we're here. We took an oath, so we take it very serious. Even though we're not getting paid, people not being disgruntled towards the passengers who are trying to fly somewhere and visit somebody in their family or a loved one that's lost. So we understand the compassion, and we have to understand that the public has nothing to do with this. Our job is to keep them safe, make them feel comfortable, let them keep the trust in that we're still doing the job that we've been assigned to do and that we took an oath to do. I can take an oath to make passengers safe. Whether TSA going to give them a quick training And you'll see what's going to happen when they do that. We talk about wait times. You put somebody the process of passing when they come through. To visually examine their body if you think they have something. You can't train that in one day. You can't train that in a few hours. That's months of training. The TSA for hired employees, they go through a whole phase of training. Okay, they got ICE doing their little trainings today at certain airports. So I'm like, okay, but how do you train them to do the job TSA employees have been doing for years? We are the best at what we do. I'm always going to tell them that. We are the best. Unfortunately, we get together in the terminals, we're pitching our money and see what we can do to buy lunch. But what's going to happen once we go home? The lunch is gone. Your stomach is full, but what about the kids you got home? So, my word, I always tell employees, if you have a little bit more than the next person, you want to come down to finance, if you can help somebody with a little gas money, you help them. You can't help everybody, but try to help who you can help. Because I might have $50, you might have nothing. What's the harm me giving you $20 for your gas tank?
All right, Hydrick.
Yes. So.
I know you guys could go on and on. We got to get through some of these questions, okay?
Yes.
And I want to just remind everybody, these our members are speaking in their union capacity. Johnny, I wanted to see if you could add to what Hydrick was saying too. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, in regards to what?
Rebecca, what was it that you were asking him to kind of speak about the various interactions with ICE that were happening, or?
So just how you've been doing personally in light with everything, and also if you've been informed on how ICE will be helping you in your capacity as it relates to security and protection.
Yeah, so I'll talk about my personal side. Like my family, we had just recovered from the previous shutdown, and we started I just talked to my wife back in February. I was like, hey, I think we were able to get back to normal. And then, but now, we've had the shutdowns, we've canceled our vacations. My daughter was wanting to go out of town to New Orleans or go down to Disney, but that's definitely off there, so we're in conservation mode, trying to, stay afloat as long as we can. And, trying to help out the other employees, like Hydrick's saying, like organizing food drives and stuff. That's what we're doing to help out the employees. But definitely there's a lot of despair in the employees' eyes when you walk through the checkpoints. And as far as ICE goes, look, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what ICE is doing up there. They just need to pay the employees, okay? Because all this is a straight up distraction to the real story of TSA officers going to work without being paid. The ICE officers are being paid. This is kind of like an insult to the employees. I've heard all kinds of negatory feedback in regards to that.
All right, thank you, Johnny. Next up from KERA News, Dylan Duke.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep, I sure can.
Thank you for taking my question. I had a question for Johnny specifically. We know Love Field is doing a food drive throughout this week, and they started last Friday. Can you talk a little bit about the North Texas Food Bank also bringing food to DFW International, if that's happening?
Yeah, absolutely. So the union's been coordinating for the last couple of days with the North Texas Food Bank of Taos County and Tarrant County because DFW shares both counties. We are in the process of finalizing a food distribution center on the north and the south end of the airport. At Love Field, we've also settled, I think on Monday, we're going to have the North Texas Food Bank of Dallas County at Dallas Love Field distributing goods to the TSA officers.
And if I could just ask one more question, why are we seeing that DFW is not having these long TSA wait times? What's the factor there?
Well, the factor would be is that the airport at DFW is so spread out. So not all terminals are busy at the exact same time. Whereas other airports, either like their hubs, like American has hubs all over the airport, or same in South in Houston is United. United has almost everything. And then Intercontinental Hobbies like Southwest, right? So at DFW, the deal is the same situation. Love Field handles all the Southwest passengers for the majority. And then at DFW, American and United and Delta, they all have little subs, but the employees are able to be moved around to help mitigate the lines, as when you're in a situation where you don't have as many places to move people. But without a doubt, we are extremely strained at DFW, it's taken excessive efforts from the TSA officers and frontline employees to keep the lines down.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right. Next from Axios, we have Brittany Gibson.
Hi, thank you for doing this. Two quick questions, if I can. The first is, do you have any sense of what training these ICE officers who are being sent to airports have? There was some mention of like a day or 4 hours of training. Is that what you've heard about the ICE agents getting sent out to airports? And then second, could someone address what these resignations mean for the future of TSA? More than 400 is a lot, but proportional to the workforce, what does this mean for the agency going forward? Are you anticipating needing to kind of do like a hiring spree after this or something like that to re-bolster the ranks?
Aaron or Johnny, one of y'all want to take that one?
No problem.
Yeah,
I think Aaron would be best to take the first one about the ICE, and then I could be happy to take the second part.
Okay, no worries. Man, what was the first question? The training that ICE is receiving. That has not been communicated down to us. The agency, the reporter earlier said she reached out to DHS. She got more information than what we're getting. So we don't know exactly what they're being told. I know some airports may be doing them a little differently. I don't know exactly what they would be training them to do. But I do want to make this point. And I don't think anyone has spoken about it, but TSA already this year has attempted, well, not this year, under this administration has attempted to remove the union from being representing TSA employees twice in the last year. And if you have read Project 2025, I feel like this is a play to try to replace TSA. It's always been about privatization. And as Johnny and Hydrick already said, the P is for profit. I believe this is a play to try to move in that direction. And I just don't think that this is going to end well with ICE going into the airports. But we need to start speaking and exposing this idea that TSA officers are less than and don't deserve to be federal employees. TSA employees, as Carlos have mentioned earlier, are very good at their job. There has not been a plane that has gone down since TSA has been stood up as an agency. As far as the question about, and Johnny can expound on this, we can't speak directly to, hiring and all of that other stuff, but I do believe all of the negative publicity around what is going on right now, it's going to be hard to recruit people to come for TSA. And you may even still see more officers leave after this. October is 6 months away. 6 months away, and we may be facing this same shutdown fiasco again. No one wants to continue to live their life with this amount of uncertainty and undue stress to no fault of their own. Johnny.
Yeah, especially the younger workforce that we have. As you see here, we are seasoned veterans of the agency. Most of us are very vested in our careers with the agency. The people that are leaving the agency are those people the agency just spent $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 training, and they worked here a couple of years, and they're not as vested as we are, and they decided to leave because most people, their finances aren't prepared for it, nor are they personally prepared for it. There's a psychological part of going to work and not being paid on time. They used to call that a different thing in the older times. They'll tell you they're going to pay you when they feel like they're going to pay you. But I just don't want to say it on this call, but you already know what it is.
All right. Thank you. Next up, we'll hear from Alicia Barrera from NBC5 in Texas.
Hi, are you all able to hear me?
We can.
Thank you. My question is for Johnny Jones over here in Dallas. Have we seen any TSA officers resigning during this round of shutdown? And if so, are you able to provide a number for that?
I can confirm that we have people that have left the agency in North Texas as a result of the shutdown, without a doubt. And
are you able to provide like a ballpark number?
I would probably have to shy away from the actual number just because I don't want anybody saying that, I was providing any, but I can confirm without a doubt, employees have left TSA in North Texas because of the shutdown.
And my follow-up question with that, have any local elected officials been in contact with you or the organization on how to help TSA officers during this time?
Currently elected officials, no. There's been I did receive some former elected officials that have reached out to me, like in the city of Dallas and, some of the other, but nobody's a locally elected official. Nobody that's in Congress or the Senate has reached out to assist the TSA officers.
That's across the country.
Thank you so much.
You're
All
welcome.
right, next
Nice to see you again.
From KTVI Fox Channel 2, is it Kelley Hoskins? I believe you had a question for Duncan.
Thank you. Yes, I was just checking to see if a representative from the St. Louis area can speak about St. Louis Lambert International Airport and the impact it's having here.
Missouri's actually not under me.
I have Missouri, Janice Casey here, and I understand they do have a high call-off rate, but not very long lines. Right now, they don't have a lot of flights, but the officers are going through the same stress that all the other officers are experiencing across the country.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Janice, I was going to say about St. Louis, I talked to one of the local union officers up there, and they were literally crying on the phone because of what's going on. The employees are so stressed out.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about that? The one with your camera on, the gentleman who had a camera on. Can you talk about speaking to the representative?
I own a house in Farmington, so I have a lot of friends up there. So I grew up in St. Louis, okay? But the employees and me have a bond. But they call me and they're just crying and they're really upset. And they don't really know. They call me just because, I talk to them with confidentiality. And I've had to talk to several people, not about, man, they just don't know how much they can do. Okay. Like how long they can take this, because it's so disruptive and destructive in your life.
All right. Thank you, Johnny. Next up, we have from the Hill, Sarah Fortinsky.
Hi, thank you. I was just wondering if there are any specific functions that ICE officers could take on that could be helpful to TSA officers that maybe could free them up to do more screenings or anything like that? Or is there just no way that you think ICE could be helpful while they're there anyway?
I was just going to write something about that. No, they cannot, because each position requires certification and recertification on a yearly basis.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot fail when you are required to take those recertifications.
That's right. Janice, tell us what happened when you fail.
It used to be you would be terminated. If you didn't pat down to the left and you were supposed to go right, you would be terminated. So it was a lot of stress every year. So no, they cannot walk into a position and know what's happening. No, especially on the X-ray machine.
All righty. Next, we have Marnie Pike from the Daily Herald, or I believe Marnie. Marnie.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wonder if Janice could talk about the situation at O'Hare. I was out there yesterday and the lines weren't that bad. So I just wondered if you could, or less people not calling out. Yeah, and could you just talk about morale?
Sometimes it depends on the day.
Oh, sorry, Janice.
But Christine could speak more of that on that because she's working directly at O'Hare.
Yeah, I can answer that. You got to remember, O'Hare Airport is a huge airport. So there is tons of employees there and tons of checkpoints. As Aaron and Johnny and Janice was saying, each day is different. I can tell you Tuesdays and Wednesdays, it's not as busy. On Mondays, it's very busy in the morning, like first flights. So, but there are so many people that do work there that they could open up a lane with only 2 or 3 people. So it will make the process go by faster with, let me see, we got 4 terminals, and I think it's 12 checkpoints. So, 12 to 14 checkpoints. And like Terminal 1 has 3 checkpoints. Terminal 2 has 1. Terminal 3 has 4. And Terminal 5 has 1 big one. And these are big, big checkpoints. They're not just the words 2 lanes. So that's why the wait times and the process is a little bit faster. And officers are coming in because of the fear that we're getting put on us about the disciplinary action, AWOLs, termination, everything you could think of, it's been thrown at us. So that's literally what's going on at O'Hare Airport itself.
Thank you.
Thank you. And to my panelists, when you're speaking, please turn your cameras on, because I know some of the reporters and producers are actually showing this live on television. From M Live in Michigan, we have Jordan Payer. Jordan, are you there? Okay, Jordan's not there. From Jordan, you there?
Yeah, no, I'm here.
What's your question?
Yeah, I was wondering if this is for Ms. Casey, if she can talk a little bit about whether they're anticipating seeing ICE deployed at additional airports in her region, specifically at the Detroit airport.
As of right now, my president there said he heard they were coming. I'm not sure if they're there right now. They do have some at O'Hare. Standing around.
Okay.
Gotcha, thank you.
Next up from Columbus Dispatch, Nathan Hart.
Hi, yeah, I was just wondering if maybe Ms. Casey could speak to why we haven't seen that much of an impact here in Columbus in terms of TSA lines. Like, why these agents keep showing up while or a bunch of other airports around the country are having 3-hour lines.
I'm sorry. Columbus, you said Columbus, speaking of Columbus, Ohio?
Yes.
Because that's I'm sure the categories have, the airports have categories. So a CADX, that's the largest airport. So Columbus would probably be a CAD 3 or 2, it depends. So they don't have the flight capacity in Ohio. You can't compare Ohio to O'Hare or Midway. So at this point in time, maybe they're able. I've heard that some officers, they can make it through this month, but after this month, they don't know. April 1st, it's like that's a wrap.
Thank you, Janice. Next, we'll have Bianco Buonono. Sorry, I'm saying your name wrong. From KABC LA. You have a question for Sean Root?
Yes, thank you so much. If you can hear me. My question is for Sean. What do you attribute the lack of noticeable disruptions to at LAX and other smaller Southern California airports like John Wayne and Ontario?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, all of our employees, they are trying their best to get to the airports. Management's working fairly well with us on doing adjustments, but their hands are still tied with that policies that they have about if they're unable to come into work, that they could face discipline. People are making arrangements at home, different arrangements for their childcare, doing the robbing Peter to pay Paul type thing too, right? So they're trying everything to come into work. But I think, we're at that breaking point where we're going to have to start seeing maybe longer lines or, altered flights or do something if this doesn't get fixed soon, because at the end of the day, everyone has a breaking point. And I think we're at that point.
Thank you so much. And just a quick follow-up question. Have you received any information about whether or not ICE agents would be deployed to any California airports?
We heard that they would possibly be deployed. We have not seen any in California as of today.
Thank you so much.
any federalized airports. Let me correct you on that.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Rochelle Turner from KPRC2 News. She's a question for Johnny Jones.
Yes. Hey, good afternoon. Hey, so this question is particularly for Bush and IAH. Could you tell us how many officers have either called out or have quit today? Or kind of give us a percentage?
Well, I can't give you an actual for today, like how many people quit, but there's definitely been officers that left. It gets into that danger zone of like what the agency says is typically the agency is better off releasing the exact date of how many officers have left. But as far as like the call outs go, they should, it's around 40%.
And I want to follow up with you. Can you kind of explain, and you and some of the others may have talked about it, what are these ICE agents doing particularly at these airports? I mean, we saw them yesterday. They were just walking around. So are you guys communicating with them? Like, what else are they doing? Because the wait times at Bush are 4 to 5 hours.
Unfortunately, they're getting trained at Bush to learn how to do exit lane and but as you can see from the videos, all they were doing was just walking around because there's nobody there to train them.
Have you heard from anyone in the Houston area, any representatives? I know that Senator John Cornyn, he provided lunch yesterday for agents at in Austin. So have you heard from anyone representing the Houston area?
Outside, you're trying to offer assistance to the Houston and
has any representatives, state senators, has anybody reached out to you specifically about Bush or Hobby?
No, they have not. The only thing you see them talk about is on you'll see them on C-SPAN talking about how the lines are bad at their airport, but they're not offering any real assistance.
And can you kind of speak a little bit to, I guess, privatize, how these guys are coming in, these agents, and it seems like they're kind of trying to take over what you guys have been trained to do?
Yeah, well, it takes 4 to 6 months to train a TSA officer to do all of our functions effectively. So, as an ICE agent might actually operate an X-ray, it's not for the same operation. They may be looking for other items. See, we're trying to detect IEDs, weapons, and stuff of that nature. They are looking for other smuggled items potentially. So the job lines don't mix up together. But as far as like privatization goes, without a doubt, as you come about, people are trying to get money for themselves. This has nothing to do with the safety and security of America. This has everything to do with me trying to extort the American people so I can make a profit. That's all that is. And if they ever did privatize, they would probably increase the passenger fee so they could pay these guys some more money. And then it always reminds me of if you were to privatize the stoplight, okay, you would have a light. And if you want to go through that light a little quicker, you have to pay 10 cents. Or you can wait an extra 30 seconds, okay? So when you get in a situation where you start privatizing checkpoint lanes, basically what's going to happen, you're going to have the TSA lane really long, and then you're going to be like, well, I could pay $100 or $200 to go through this line really quick. And eventually that's what they're going to try to do. And that's how it works in toll lanes. That's how it works in any other parts of the government where you have a hybrid government / privatized situation. Just look at the toll lanes in Houston, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Last question. Can you just kind of explain?
We really need to do one question per person. I'm sorry.
One more question. Yes. Oh, okay. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. We're next going to go to, I believe it's Kit Moore from the Mid-Hudson Times.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Hi. We can.
I was wondering, Aaron already sort of address this, but I was wondering what impacts this was having on smaller airports, and if they're also seeing loss of staff and how that's affecting them.
We have Rebecca Wolf. Rebecca, are you still on? So I believe she's on.
I was going to say, at the small airports that we have in our local, Brittany, if Rebecca's not on, It's really strange. Some of the airports have received excessive amounts of donations, right, for the employees because these people know them on a first name basis when they fly through because it's such a small airport. So it becomes more personalized. So the donations have been excessively higher. I have an airport right now where we've received over $5,000 in donations for 14 employees. It doesn't come like that in all the other airports. But go ahead, Rebecca, while you get ready.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you repeat the question? I apologize.
I wanted to know how the shutdown has been affecting smaller airports and whether they've been seeing the same sort of staff shortages and people leaving or not coming to work.
Again, like Johnny said, we're smaller communities. So the outpour from the communities has been wonderful. As far as helping with food, they have been donating gas cards. But we are seeing call outs. I don't have numbers for you. It's taking a toll on people. You can see it in their faces. People come to work crying. Some can't come to work. It's affecting them mentally and emotionally. It's a bigger, broader thing besides just the financial aspects. It's really affecting them.
All right. Thank you, Rebecca. That is actually going to be our last question. If you have any additional questions and want to set up any interviews, just go to afge.org/media inquiries. I'll put that in the chat and we can set up any interviews. But I want to throw it back to President Kelley to just close us out.
Well, Brenda, thank you. And I want to say to all of those that have taken an interest in hearing the stories of these TSOs today, thank you. This is a dire emergency. In my opinion, these employees have shown their worth, to have endured 3 shutdowns in the last 6 months. It tells you of the character. It tells you of who they are. It tells you that they are concerned about this country. And so I want to just submit to the Congress of the United States of America, it's time to get off the can. It's time to do what's right, and that is pay these employees so that they can adequately continue to perform the duties that they have signed up to perform for the American people. So thank you once again for being with us. And just remember to say thank you to every TSO when you see them, when you go through the airport, wherever you see them, tell them thank you for the job that they're doing for the American public. So thank you, and I wish Godspeed to all of you.
Thank you, everyone.